The first time I saw her shadow fall across my chicken coop, I knew trouble had arrived. Karen didn't knock, didn't call out, just strutted into my backyard like she owned the place, clipboard in hand, lips pursed tight enough to snap. The chickens clucked nervously, pecking at the ground, as if they could sense the storm brewing. "These," she declared, stabbing a finger toward my hens, "are a direct violation of HOA bylaws. You'll be fined $200 per day until they're removed." I stared at her, sunlight catching the edges of her oversized sunglasses, and I swear I could see the reflection of her own smug grin in the lenses. For a moment, I just let her talk. She rattled off paragraph numbers and ordinance codes like she'd memorized them in the mirror, probably practicing the tone that said she was both judge and executioner. But the thing about bullies like Karen, they're so sure they're right that they never see the wall they're about to run into. I didn't bother explaining that my chicken coop wasn't just legal, it was practically a civic monument. I wanted to see how deep she'd dig her own hole first. When she was done, I asked, calm as a Sunday sunrise, "Karen, did you happen to read the exemption section of the bylaws?" She tilted her head, pretending to think. "No exemptions apply here. Poultry of any kind is banned within HOA jurisdiction." That's when I smiled. "Actually, there's a clause allowing for coops built or sanctioned by a city official for community benefit. My coop? It was designed, funded, and built by Mayor Samuels himself as part of the community garden project." "You were at the ribbon cutting, remember?" Her face twitched, but she didn't back down. "That's impossible. No mayor would build a private coop. I'll be verifying this." I shrugged. "Please do. While you're at it, you might want to ask why the mayor keeps fresh eggs from here delivered to the community center every week." Karen stalked off, muttering something about overstepping boundaries and special treatment. I knew she'd go digging, and that was exactly what I wanted. Because the deeper she dug, the more she'd find that the dirt under her own shoes wasn't solid. The next day, she came back with backup 2 HOA board members, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. She started in on the same speech, this time with a printed fine notice in bold red letters. That's when the twist arrived. A black SUV pulled up at the curb, and out stepped Mayor Samuels himself, holding a grocery bag that smelled faintly of fresh bread and basil. He glanced at the paper in Karen's hand, then at the coop, then at me. "Is there a problem here?" Karen straightened her shoulders, shifting into her authoritative tone. "Yes, Mr. Mayor. This resident is keeping poultry in direct violation of HOA." She stopped when his eyebrows went up. "Karen," he said slowly, "I built this coop, I approved it, and I even used my own budget to make sure it met code. You signed the thank you card." Mark, my neighbor from across the street, had been filming the whole thing from his porch. The look on Karen's face, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, was pure gold. The mayor didn't stop there. In fact, he continued, "This coop is part of a community sustainability program that your HOA agreed to promote, which means, by trying to fine this resident, you're in breach of your own agreement with the city." Karen's backup glanced at each other, visibly calculating whether it was smarter to stay or to walk away. They chose the latter, mumbling excuses about miscommunication as they left her standing there alone. The mayor stepped closer, his voice dropping just enough to make the tension cut sharp. "I suggest you stop harassing residents over non-issues and focus on the actual community needs. And while you're at it, Karen, I've been hearing some interesting complaints about how fines are being selectively applied." I could feel the shift in the air the moment her confidence started to crack. She huffed, muttered something about needing to review the paperwork, and left in a hurry, her heels clicking like she was trying to escape the sound of her own defeat. But I wasn't done. Not yet. 2 days later, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. At first, I thought something had happened to the coop, but when I checked, the hens were pecking happily, totally unaware of the digital wildfire raging outside. Mark's porch video had hit the local Facebook groups, then Reddit, and then somehow made its way to a regional news station. The clip was less than 2 minutes long. Karen waving her fine notice, the mayor stepping out of his SUV, her expression melting into disbelief, but it was the kind of footage people replayed over and over. The comments were merciless. By noon, the HOA's generic email address had been flooded with messages from residents, half demanding Karen's resignation, half sending links to chicken recipes with subject lines like, legal and delicious. That night, a hastily called HOA meeting packed the community center. I hadn't planned to go. I figured Karen would either try to spin it or storm out, but Mark convinced me. "You'll want to see this in person," he said with a grin. When I walked in, Karen was already at the front, trying to maintain composure, but her voice had that brittle edge of someone about to crack. She launched into a speech about misinterpretations of bylaws and protecting property values, but every other sentence was met with murmurs and eye rolls from the audience. Then the mayor stood up from the back of the room. He didn't shout, didn't even raise his voice, but the room went silent. "Karen, your HOA signed an agreement with the city to participate in our sustainability initiative. That agreement is public record. You've attempted to levy fines on at least 3 residents involved in the program, including the very Coop I built. You've misrepresented the bylaws, and you've damaged the community's relationship with the city." Karen tried to interrupt, but he held up a hand. "I'm not finished. In reviewing the city's copy of your financial reports, I noticed discrepancies. Several fines collected for alleged bylaw violations never appear in your bank statements. I've already forwarded this to the county auditor." The gasp that went through the room was almost physical. You could feel it. This was the twist I hadn't expected. It wasn't just about the Coop anymore. This was about money. And money trails don't lie. Linda, one of the quieter board members, stood up next. "For months, I've been asking for full financial transparency. Karen refused every time. But now that we have cause, I'll be turning over the full HOA records to the authorities." Karen's face flushed deep red. "You can't," but the deputy mayor, who I didn't even know was present until then, cut in. "They can. And they will. This meeting is being recorded as part of the investigation." The next week was chaos. Karen tried everything: mass emails claiming political bias, door-to-door visits to explain the truth, even calling the local paper to accuse the mayor of personal vendettas. But none of it stuck. The audit confirmed tens of thousands of dollars in fines that had been collected in cash and never deposited into HOA accounts. Even worse, several of the alleged violations were proven to be fabricated. On the day the county sheriff's office came to serve her with a summons, she was in her driveway, phone in hand, probably mid-complaint. The deputy walked up, handed her the papers, and she froze like she'd just been turned to stone. A neighbor across the street filmed the whole thing. The title, when it hit social media? From Fine Queen to Court Date. When the HOA voted her out, it wasn't even close. Every single ballot except her own was marked for removal. Linda took over as interim president, immediately implementing a transparency policy and a community review panel for disputes. As for my chickens, they became minor celebrities. Kids from the neighborhood would come by after school to feed them scraps and take pictures. The mayor even had a plaque made, mounted right on the Coop, reading, "Built for the people by the people's mayor." It was a little corny, but I loved it. One afternoon, Linda stopped by with a folder. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said. Inside was a printed screenshot from the HOA's official Facebook page apology post, written by the new board. It acknowledged the wrongful targeting of residents, the misuse of funds, and promised full cooperation with the county investigation. At the bottom was a note: "Special thanks to the residents who stood up for what's right." I didn't need my name in there. Seeing the Coop still standing, the hens still scratching happily in the dirt, and knowing the whole neighborhood had seen Karen's power crumble, that was enough. In the end, Karen's case never made it to trial. She took a plea deal for financial misconduct, paid restitution to the HOA, and moved out of the neighborhood under what the local rumor mill called self-imposed exile. Sometimes I wonder if she thought she'd win, if she really believed her clipboards and bylaws could outmuscle truth, community, and the mayor himself. But every time I see those chickens, I remember the look on her face when Samuel said, "I built this Coop. It was the soundless pop of a balloon that had been inflated for years. So here's my question to you. Was she just drunk on power and blinded by pride? Or did she know from the start that she was breaking the rules?